Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's now welcome our panelists as well. So joining us first for this session, we have Mr. M. Anand, President, SBI Life Insurance. Then we have Mr. Prasad Krishnamorthy, Vice President, Products, Perfios. And may I please invite Ms. Vishakha RM, MD and CEO, IndiaFirst Life Insurance Company Limited, again on the stage. And this session will be moderated by Amit Roy, Partner, Insurance and Allied Businesses, PwC India. Let's welcome our speakers.
Delighted to be a part of today's session, and what we plan to do for next half an hour is talking about the universal coverage. And can't thank you enough, Vishakha, for setting up the context so well. India has got huge potential in terms of what is waiting for us. And let me start the session by sharing a small experience that I had regarding how the country is changing. Couple of weeks back, we went to Lonavala in one of the weekends, to trek through a small hillock. And we all thought that it was a little cloudy, so there could be a rain. So we left our everything, wallet, our phones, everything on a car, and we ran towards the hillock in the excitement. And it was a terrific trek, no rain, and we are really enjoying the trek. But we got tired. All middle-aged people get tired easily, though the excitement was on. So we decided to come down. Thirsty for a tea, we stopped near a roadside tea seller, and typical, a village roadside tea seller. Then it struck us that we are not carrying anything to do even UPI. We were not carrying our purses, we are not carrying our cards. And then the debate started, and someone suggested that you just keep your old watch with the tea wala, and we come back and we have the tea now, and something like that. That tea shop guy was actually looking at us, and he was listening to the conversation. He said, "Koi baat nahi sahab. Aadhaar number yaad hai kisi ko?" So we thought that even for a tea now you need Aadhaar number. Is that digital India? So he said, no. Any of you who recall Aadhaar number? So we had a banker, and bankers got fantastic memories. So this guy could memorize his Aadhaar number. And he said, "Karoge kya?" So he took out a device. It was a small device with a, where you can push your thumb. It was red light flickering. That tea seller attached that to his phone, and he said, "Idhar aap angutha lagao." And he pressed the thumb, and bingo, 63 rupees get deducted from his account towards the cost of the tea. And I think that's India. And that's the possibility which can lead us to the universal coverage. Because I guess Vishakha built up 2 points. One, in the case of awareness, that how much of insurance that we know of is around claims. And I think she touched another very beautiful point, that people creep about insurance companies' complexity, product feature, variety, and all of that. But the millions of claims that get settled across the country are so silent. How many of you know that insurance companies settled hundreds of crores of rupees to the customers during the pandemic? And I think we were one country, and I feel so proud to be saying this, that across the globe, when I interact with other PwC partners and I ask definitely their experience of pandemic claims, let me tell you that you guys have done a fantastic job. I think as an industry, India's claim settlement was the best in the world in terms of speed, in terms of simplicity. Yeah, we should clap for them. Come on. Unfortunately, when you talk about India, when you talk about insurance, is something which is a necessary evil. You can't avoid it, but you have to take it. And probably that awareness is not there, because still in our school, children start with learning about who was Babur, who was Aurangzeb, who was Humayun. But nobody talks about financial planning. Nobody talks about insurance as a subject to be introduced. I think in that backdrop, since we have heard Vishakha. So I wanted to start with Anand's view in terms of what more can be done to create some glamour into this world of insurance. Universal coverage would need a lot of distribution point, but people don't want to become agent, because it's not a glamorous profession. So how do we bring around glamour, glory, claim settlement, moment of truth?
Thanks, Amit. I think one of the glamorous part is I'll start with some figures. Okay, so in terms of some of the numbers that really point out to us, saying that insurance has come a long way. I'll just take a last 8-9 years or 10 years reference, just to give some number perspective. Start with one fact, which is around 20 lakh crores of AUM is now today 50 lakh crores of AUM. So where is that going? It is going into the country. It's going into the infrastructure development. So there is a huge component that is coming out from the life insurance space. That's what the industry is bringing in terms of investment into the country. So that's number one. Number two is we always look at GDP penetration, and yes, it's a good measure to look at. But I would like to change that perspective and bring out saying that look at two aspects. Let's look at two aspects, and it resonates with the mission of Insurance for All by 2047, which is the number of people being brought into the fold of insurance. Okay. The other aspect is insurance as a percentage of GDP, hence we measure penetration. That is the extent of coverage.
Absolutely.
So there are two parts to it. One is get that individual into the insurance coverage, and then the second part is in terms of get that person adequate cover. So that's where the element of protection gap comes. I'm sure Amit will bring that point out. So it's something that we need to be cognizant of. So that's just one stat I shared about. If you look at what's happening, it's about, let's say, the Suraksha schemes, people have various perspectives or thoughts, but a simple math. What was almost 3 crores coverage in 2015 is today a 13 plus crore coverage through PMJJBY. A simple math. Along with that, you take, let's say, because the published data of IRDA of all the companies is out only for 21, 22, 22, 23 is yet to come out. The overall stats, if I were to just take a reference of that, that's around 25 crores of lives covered.
Yes.
So 25 crore lives plus a PMJJBY of around 13 and a half crores. It's around 38, 39 crores being covered out of a 140 crore population. What was it? Let's say 10 years back, it's around 10%. Today, it's around 28%. So there is a progress. So there is I would take it I would infer this data and then bring it out saying that it is a challenging task. It's a tough task to make it glamorous or to take it in terms of making everyone have a cover. But it's not an impossible task.
No, that's a great point, and thanks for bringing that up, because I think Vishakha is best place to give us some vision around how the number is increasing, because this is one of the policymakers' decision which actually did a lot of good to the country. So many people getting into this kind of almost like initially started by force. Great that bank sold that, but I personally know that we did a research as a firm that what has been the effect of these Pradhan Mantri Yojanas. And what is startling is that better than Fashal Bima Yojana, actually the Jeevan Bima Yojana worked very well. The personal coverage out of that small premium has been very good. So Vishakha, what will drive universal coverage? Would it be product, distribution, differentiator, decision making, regulation? Your thoughts on that?
So unfortunately, you're not going to have a very positive opinion from me. So I had just become a CEO in March 2015 of IndiaFirst Life Insurance, and then that was when the Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana was launched. Stars in my eyes, wanted to do something big. I said, oh my God, this is awesome. What an opportunity. Just imagine if we get 2 crore customers. Bank of Baroda is our promoter, so we were sitting and doing, okay, even if I do only the zero balance accounts, and we were one of the first companies to actually file the product.
Yeah. I recall that.
The Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana, we were the first company to file it. We said it's a good product, we have to support the government, we have to support the minister, this is micro insurance and this. Um, the pricing was not good enough. The pricing did not consider some basic factors of anti-selection. The pricing did not consider the fact that you need underwriting or you need an ability to repudiate. But this product neither had underwriting nor an ability to repudiate.
Correct.
And pricing did not take those into consideration. So I think everybody, the entire industry bled for 5 years and multiple representations made to the government, and post a lot of representations that were made to the government, the price has increased now. And the price has increased to be more moderate. It is not it's not going to make it profitable for insurance companies, but it's definitely going to make sure that it's not loss making. Dwara Research actually did a paper, and I have received this paper just yesterday, which is what really got me worried in terms of how can universal coverage happen. I'm in a quandary here as much, and if this is a panel discussion, I'm throwing those questions back as much at the audience and at the other panelists here. And it released a report that while the Jan Suraksha portal had a 23 crore number of customers, an RTI filed with IRDAI brought about the fact that it's only a 5.39 crores of customers who are actively insured under PMJJBY. It came up with reasons and says the reasons for why people are not buying this, and it's a really simple policy delivered. I'm not taking away the positives. I think it has done more for awareness of insurance than any other marketing campaign of any other company has ever done. But the mindset still is that something called an optimism bias. People don't think that their risk of death is enough anytime, is high enough anytime. Then it says loss aversion. People think of paying premium as a loss. At the risk of offending some of the very religious people in this group, I'm like, what is that coconut and the nariyal and the donation that you do at the temple? And for me, that's straight away loss, right? But insurance premium is considered as a loss.
Yeah.
So I've never been able to make how that works. A status quo bias. 60 years, Life Insurance Corporation of India has been a monopoly.
Yeah.
The only product that we all knew about were endowment and money back. The term product as a product was actually brought in only when privatization happened.
Yes.
I still remember the first, a young man in his 30s with his hands behind his back saying term insurance cover for 3,000 rupees. I distinctly remember it was the private companies which brought that in. So there is a whole status quo bias. People who have had the experience of getting back returns on endowment. Now, these are some of the biases that are prevalent. We need to overcome those biases, which is why probably I spent more time in trying to say, can we create some kind of goodwill, some sponsorship for insurance, some buy-in, talk about it proactively,
that's a great point.
rather than figure out the give and get, because it's risk. How much is good enough for risk?
Yeah, sure. And I believe you touched upon another very important point, that if we only keep expecting that the insurance company will bear the brunt and bear the losses, and shareholders will bear the losses for the coverage, it cannot work. It has to be a win-win situation for the stakeholders. If the customer wants to have great experience, great features, great coverage, even the shareholders have to have some kind of a return around it. And I believe on that, technology has a big role, data has a big role, customization has a big role. So, Prasad, what are the areas where you think on universal coverage technology actually can really change the landscape?
Sure. Thank you, Amit Rao, and thanks for letting me be part of this panel. So I'll touch upon a few of the points. I'm part of the optimistic side of this universal coverage. So I feel that considering the amount of changes that are happening, I think slowly but surely the knowledge and the awareness of insurance is increasing. Maybe a bit slowly compared to other financial products, but it is increasing. And the main thing that technology needs to do here is make sure these products reach the people at the right time, right? So we talked about what is needed as part of life goals at each life step, right? So there are different needs that might be needed. Vishakha ma'am had touched upon that. Now, for an insurer to actually provide it at the time of need is where technology is really helping, right? So where today it being a push product, it's not just life. I want to take about general also and composite products in the future, where these are offered to the customers at the point of need. So that's where moving from an intermediary-led push to a more ecosystem and marketplace-led point of sale will be the change that technology will provide. And here, there are a few things that open up. So one is today, because, no fault of the intermediaries, that most insurers do not get the clear idea or enough details about the customer.
Correct.
Right? So you don't have a clear enough customer profile to go and offer the right product at the right time.
Yeah.
And the first, where data and technology comes in is to provide that customer profile in a detailed manner, along with risks so that your underwriting is better, along with information about the background, about the, say, the financial spends. So a financial profile of the customer will also help in determining how which kind of product to provide or what kind of term should the product be. So the customer profile as part of distribution, and you get a customer profile with the marketplaces and the ecosystems which provide a channel which have a lot of information about the customer and that data being given. And while we have the technology to get the data, we need the technology to do the distribution in an open way. Today, it is for each product, for each partner, an intermediary has a large amount of effort to do to actually integrate one-on-one APIs. And a lot of times it's just passing a lead rather than going from a point of sale to a policy in one click, right? So the entire process has to be eased, and I feel technology will play a big role, like the way in the earlier sessions there were a lot of talk on the open architecture, right? So where account aggregator has brought in an ease of consented data being available. So that again will enable getting a better customer profile. Whereas for credit, you have a OCEN standard, which sort of eliminated this one-on-one integration between a service provider and a marketplace, right?
Sure. And I think on that front also, Vishakha, a lot of steps have been initiated even from the regulator's office in terms of providing the data or the the profiles or the persona to be created for the insurers. So profitability is always a big debate in insurance. So what are the 3-4 things you think can actually promote the universal coverage much more? Because I know that insurers have been on life side have been given mandated to take up states, to deepen penetration and all of that. But success around that is all around running the business profitably, running the business with sustainability. So what are the 3-4 points that comes to your mind on that?
So thanks for that. Actually, the biggest problem is not on sustainability.
Yeah.
I think most insurance companies are happy to support the government agenda and the regulator agenda and say, let's just go ahead and invest and let's create the market and we'll figure out. Like even the Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti, right? We have all made losses in the first 5 years, but we're saying it's okay. That's in the interest. Let's figure out. We don't want to be taken for a ride, so you don't want frauds, but you don't mind investing in order to be able to penetrate deeper. I think while talking on technology, there was a very interesting article today in the papers on the generative AI being used to promote government schemes where there's a test pilot going on, where an ordinary maid working is part of a pilot test of people who is asking questions in her native language, saying, my son is 15 years old, I want to send him to school, college, what are the government schemes available? And ChatGPT is responding, thank you, responding back in a language. Now, I think one of the biggest obstacles we have is distribution. One of the biggest obstacles we have is trust. And we want to see whether we can actually use technology to do this entire objection handling of overcoming lack of trust. So initiatives are really not inhibited on account of cost and profit. It is inhibited on account of not having distribution.
Yeah.
And and the products not being worthwhile for distribution. But Anand can add if he has point.
So yeah, I think Anand, you are the best placed in that, because if after LIC the universal coverage has to write somewhere, it's definitely SBI comes to my mind. With so many branches all across, what are your feelings to run? Actually, the profitability part of it is very important. Again and again, I am touching that, because I don't think that anything can sustain unless and until it really is a win-win story for people.
See, I'll go back to what Prasad was talking about. So the profitability and optimism gets compounded the moment I hear more on technology. So if I look at today Indian demographics, India as a country, our country, I will look at it as a digital country and non-digital country. Okay, so one of the attractiveness portion linking that first question of yours, my information access and the way I provide information to the end user is paramount, number one. Number two is digital has made life so easy. Technology has made life so easy. Is I get the persona, I get the profile, I get the information. Yes, there is a cost attached to it, which has a bearing on, over a period of time. If you build the scale, then the cost gets taken care of. So that's the second aspect. So there is a digital India. 120 crore Indians use mobile phone is an indicator.
Of course.
Okay. 60 crore Indians use smartphones, example. So I'm just saying, today's medium for taking that information to a customer is available. So an Indian is looking at it. And he is leaving a lot of digital footprint, which all the technology companies pick it up and assimilate and give it back to us to take a look at in terms of what is the profile, what is the risk. So combination of a distribution might and the digital is definitely a pathway for ensuring a coverage for all, for a universal coverage. Just pause for a moment. Take a look at what the regulator is doing. The regulator is moving into principle-based regulation. Yeah. The recent changes that have been brought about, if you classify it into 2 or 3 parts, the first part being consumer. The consumer aspect has been covered when you looked at the way product regulation guidelines have been kind of worked upon, have been eased off, sandbox provisions, Bima Sugam, from a consumer point of view. So there is a progressive step being taken by the regulator. So that's number one. Look at it from an enabling of business point of view. Getting more players into the country, making it easy for someone to enter, and really looking at ease of doing business in the country. So there is a relaxation. There is a liberalization in terms of approvals being accorded. Capital raising is also being worked upon. That's another aspect. And multiple tie-ups have been permitted and opened out. So everything is being done to take the product to the last mile. So from a consumer point of view, there's a digital consumer available, there's technology available, regulator is easing the regulations, making it more a principle-based regulation. What is left is for the insurers to now rally around. Now, insurers to rally around pivots on 2 or 3 pillars. One, definitely distribution. 2 is the awareness creation, and that's where that attractiveness quotient comes, how to make it easy to understand and attractive to read about. Fortunately, unfortunately, the pandemic has kind of caused a sense of realization which has come into the minds of people, a level of awareness to think differently with respect to term cover, what Vishakha started off and when she said the context, very clearly that is coming out. So if you look at the entire pieces all falling in place and put the jigsaw together, there is definitely, it's not an easy task. It's going to be an arduous journey. It's an audacious goal. However, there is a pathway visibility that is emerging.
Wow, I like your positivity around it. And coming back to your point of you have a digital citizen, one side and non-digital. So netizens basically, and we are that way now that we are most populous country, and I think Vishakha touched upon. Possibly living long will be a much bigger challenge for all of us. And we need something like an insurance UPI movement for us. And I don't know whether it will be something like, giving hellos to people's head, people who are insured, so government provides a hello against that. You get faster, boarding passes and all of that. I don't know what will happen on that. But Prasad, your thoughts on UPI movement on insurance very quickly, is Bima Sugam like Anand touched upon? Is that something that you are also banking on?
Right. So a platform like Bima Sugam, which makes distribution easier, gets access to the last mile, and the Bima Sevak and other initiatives that the regulator has brought up, bringing the insurance to the last mile. I want to touch up the other part, okay, which is the moment of truth for all these insurance policies is the claim, right? So while the digital and the non-digital citizens, the universal coverage is coming, at the point of claim, even though payment ratios are very high, right? It is still, especially in the general, when we come to a health or a motor, the claim ratio is actually pretty bad for an insurer, right? And that is sort of a hindrance, saying that, okay, when you say insurance for all, health insurance still struggles with a very high claim
You said
ratio.
claim ratio, is it?
Claim ratio.
So I like to debate on that, and this is something that I wanted to tell the audience also, and this is something that I am incorrigibly optimist about, and I am really proud about. Do you know that India is one of the cheapest country in terms of giving coverages to people? And do you know that India has got worst claim history when it comes for the insurance companies in terms of the frauds and in terms of the over payments that happens, An independent estimate tells us that industry loses 20%, in terms of financial leakages. So that's the backdrop. So while the claims go is so bad, in spite of that, almost 90% of the insurance companies are above 90% of the claim settlement, on the life side. And even on the non-life side, it has improved drastically. So it's a much better India, Vishakha, right? I have seen 70, 80%, 60% claim ratios also. So it's a great story actually.
Yeah, see, that's the other part where technology has to enable greatly is giving the ease of giving universal coverage. The biggest hindrance is the fraud, as you said, like 20%, 25% in health, and the number at every research paper, the number keeps increasing.
Correct.
Right. So with that level of fraud and a high claim ratio, technology is the only thing that can provide a regulation, not a regulatory this thing, some regulation of the amount of fraud that is happening. And today, a lot of claims belong to the non-digital category, right? So it is in the world of non-digital process. And that's where technology companies like us play a big part in bringing that claims process into the digital world. So there is a lot of data that is present.
That's definitely a super point. I completely agree on that. And I know that we are really running short of time and Dil Mange more.
Just one point to yours on claims, it's all not that bad. 74,000 crores of claim has been settled by the life insurance industry.
Yeah.
Okay, so up from 14,000 10 years back to 74,000. Number one. 2 odd crores of maturity benefits going up to 5 lakh crores. 2 lakh crores going up to 5 lakh crores. So there are two aspects to life insurance. One is the death claim settlement. The other one is fulfilling their dreams and letting people pursue their passion. So that's something that is the industry is doing. So there is on the claim settlement and the maturity benefit payout, it's doing a phenomenal job because 5 lakh crore is not a small sum of money.
Yeah. Now,
and it is fueling that many number of passion chasers in the country.
Correct. So one last point I know, Vishakha, I wanted to take from you is that in social media, people go and talk about getting a new house, new car, getting married, celebration, anniversaries, birthdays. My eyes actually search for people celebrating taking insurance, and people taking coverages or getting the claim settled. People don't talk about it, and that's a real problem. So, any thoughts around that? Again and again, I am coming back that is there something that policymakers or is there something that industry can do about, some glory around the entire process?
I think the day that we celebrate risk management, I think that's the day everything will get celebrated. Today, nobody talks about buying a helmet, they'll talk about buying a scooter. So I think risk management as a topic itself is not a glamorous topic.
Yeah.
I've got a daughter who's 29. She's told me that I have scarred her for life because I used to point out all through her growing up years. I never used to tell her what to do, what not to do. I would sit her down and say, okay, what are the risks? Let's talk about it. You want to travel by auto and you want to wear this dress and you want to come back at 12. Now let's put down what are the risks. So I've brought her up through her teenage years only by discussing risks. So she tells me that she's apparently the most boring friend. No friend wants to go with her because she's talking risks all the time. And I have scarred her for life. So that's how people think about risk management. How do you glorify risk management? I think you just have to have it. Why are mothers the most boring people? Because they're the ones who will tell you to drink soup. They're the ones who will tell you to put on a sweater. They're the ones who will tell you to take a shawl. They're the ones who will have a big bag full of emergency stuff. Ki shayad bachon ko bhook lagegi. The guy will go with only his hands in his pocket. No. And who's got more glamour? The guy, not the woman. So I think until we can change an entire image of risk management to glamour across, not just in insurance, I think that once we do that, once we celebrate people who are actually being prudent, I think automatically the cascading effect will be felt in insurance.
Yeah, that's a great point, and thank you so much. And I think you'll agree that with the eminent panelists that we had, you feel like going on and on for taking their ideas, and good to see the optimism around the universal coverage from all of them. And let's have two questions from the house, and then we fold up the panel. Anyone having any question?
The question is, do you think AI will take over the actuarial job in the insurance industry?
I have a lot of respect for generative AI. Okay, I think in my organization, I've probably been using ChatGPT more than anybody else in the company. I think what it has not yet reached, okay, is connecting dots and making inferences. It will probably be a tool, and what we really need to respect AI is for the amount of information that it can provide and collate and give it to you. But being able to connect the dots, recognize a pattern, and based on the pattern, be able to price futuristically, I think there's a lot more of intuition and application of mind that is required. Yes, if you're going to have actuaries who are only data modeling, their jobs will be taken over. But if you have actuaries who are actually using their intelligence, using their cognitive skills, putting dots together, forecasting, and using experience, I think AI can't take over that job so easily. Maybe later, but not right now.
Just to add, I'll say that the data processing and data crunching part will disappear, but the discretion and the decision part will still remain with the actuaries. And because that is where you need to take a call on what is going to be the judgment.
I think I'll close the panel with big thanks to Financial Express for actually organizing this very contextual topic of universal coverage. It's very interesting that people should take insurance when they don't need it, and probably that's the beauty of the product. And thanks for creating awareness around insurance with this relevant topic. Thank you so much. Thanks, the panelists.